Hey, welcome to Mama Mandala. I'm Hagar. I'm glad you're here. Today is Beltane, which is a Celtic holiday, pagan holiday, that marks the midpoint between the spring equinox and the summer solstice. And that is from a northern hemisphere perspective. In the southern hemisphere, today is Samhain, which is the midpoint between the fall equinox and the winter solstice. So in the northern hemisphere, we're moving into longer days, brighter light, sunlight that grows in power and invites us to step into our own vitality, to grow the vision that we have outwardly, to bring it into form. And when we bring something into form, when we are the word manifesting is a little obnoxious, right? At this point, when we're hearing it, like, I'm manifesting. It can be a little bit annoying, but for lack of a better word, when we are shaping something and bringing a vision into form, when we are manifesting something, it adds variables to our lives. So it makes life more complicated and more complex. It makes it richer, but it makes us the need to grow the way that we consider things is very much brought into light. And Beltane is a holiday that celebrates the eroticism of nature. It celebrates the mating season. It's like reaching this point in spring when the eros has grown into this full bloom, and now the world is ready. The world is ready for the seduction and the courting and the sensuality and the sexuality of life to come into form and to make fruit, right? To pollinate and make more of life. You might hear my doggie Gracie coming toward us. She's gone through a lot lately, so she might show up with her cone in the picture. But there's an invitation in the archetypal play of sensuality and even sexuality to tap into the energy of passion and grow it. We can obviously take that into the obvious place of sex, but we can make it also about something richer inside of us, or not just richer, but that has a meaning that is broader than just the specific thing, and let it become the energy that pulls us out of ourselves toward something more, toward someone else, toward greater complexity. Because when we move toward something, we are pulled toward. And when we're moved to bring forth from inside of us something into the world changes. Because when two things come together, or when something is born, more variables are added. And so as life grows, life becomes more complex. I know that anybody who's a parent knows that. I've been a parent for 12 years, and yes, life has become richer, but also a lot more complicated and a lot more complex, and there's a lot more to consider. There's a lot more pieces to weave together. And Beltane is the woven tapestry of bloom, of flowering, of opening, of calling in the things that we desire, and of churning and turning and spinning and weaving and bringing forth from inside ourselves that which we desire. It's both, right? It's a calling in, which means we're going to need to be receptive, and it's a generating kind of an energy. And if you do take that into the sexual metaphor of it, it really is, especially in the feminine code, not gender, but like the code of the femininity, is that of receptivity, of calling in, of being like the scent of the flower that calls in the insects. and then being the power of the flower to stick the pollen to the insect so that the seed can spread, right? So it's the ability to receive, and from what we've received to generate something new, something more, something else, to grow ourselves, to grow the possibilities, to grow life, to change and expand and grow the world. And there are many different rituals for Beltane. There's the maypole dance, which the pole is, of course, a phallic symbol, and there's a dance around it, and it's the masculine and the feminine weaving together with the ribbons around the pole, and the pole is rooted in the earth, and the earth is the feminine. And I'm speaking not in gender, but in code, so don't get too crazy about this, but let it, because I do think the conversation right now, in a very important way, is expanding and broadening how we think about gender. And I think that that's really necessary and really important and really healthy and really helpful for a lot of people who have not been seen until now. And we can still use with great honor and respect the codes of feminine and masculine, so that we have some framework to work with and play with and think about, and from rooting ourselves in those terms, keep expanding the terms and growing how we're seeing and thinking and considering it, right? So not throw away the terms masculine and feminine, but include more than just masculine and feminine. Does that make sense? So we're rooted in the earth as the feminine, the pole that is the masculine, and we're dancing with a ribbon around it, around the pole and on the earth, to grow and weave a reality that is greater than just the masculine and the feminine, right? Because it creates a third thing. And if it creates a third thing, right? If it creates the ribbons woven together and the mating creates a child, there's a creation of a third thing that then tells us that there's not just three things, but that there's more. There's more than three. There's more. We had the masculine, we had the feminine, and then we added non-binary, and we can keep growing it, because now if we have three, we have more. We have a wide varieties of possibilities, and this is exactly what Beltane invites us into. It's into the increasing and growing and expanding the variables, because again, we have rituals of mating, we have the invitation to make more, right? To take things to yet another place, to create a change, to create a movement that furthers the conversation, that furthers the vision, that expands how we show up, and grows what we can make with what is here. It's a festival. The Beltane rituals are full of Shakti. So that's it's a Sanskrit term, and I am mixing a little bit again. In the conversation of cultural appropriation, I am stepping into playing with and sharing a little bit about a culture that I didn't come from. I didn't come from the European culture of paganism. I come from the Jewish tradition. And so I come from the Middle East, but I also come from the Ashkenazi Jewish tradition. So I also come from Eastern European tradition. So we are complex beings, all of us. We have more than just one tradition flowing in our blood. And I've spent my entire adult life almost studying and rooting myself and practicing and taking very seriously the yogic tradition that comes from India. And from a very young age, as a very little girl, I was very attracted to India. I heard stories of my parents that traveled to India, and it broadened my mind, and my imagination went very wild, and I was always pulled toward that place. Why is that? Isn't that interesting how we get pulled in our imagination from childhood to go somewhere, to see something, to experience something else, and we don't know why. But so my entire adult life I've spent studying yoga. So so we get to, if we do it again respectfully and with reverence and with the ability to do it, questioning ourselves a little bit, not being too sure of ourselves, showing up careful enough, we can taste and weave together a tapestry that's made of different traditions that have touched our lives and different traditions that have added to our lives, again, so that the variables grow, because life is moving in the direction of greater complexity, not greater simplicity. Think of the universe. The universe is much more complex than it was before the Big Bang, right? Like, it banged itself into existence, and a lot more is possible now than there was when the universe first banged, because more has been created, and the more is created, the more variables are added. This is very Beltane. This is very much the invitation of this moment in the Northern Hemisphere that moves us into expanding, growing, making more life. And so that all started because I said the word Shakti, but Shakti in the yoga tradition that comes from India is a word that means energy, capacity, power. And it refers to the goddess. So often when we say the Shakti, we mean the goddess. We mean the feminine encoded energy of nature and even of culture. And it's great, power. Shakti is power. Shakti is feminine power. Shakti is the animating force of nature. So this festival, this holiday is full of Shakti, and Shakti invites change, or it creates change. It takes what we think and feel is stuck and asks us to look deeper. So, and I'm bringing that up particularly because we may feel right now Beltane's happening and nature is blossoming and it sounds really wonderful, but we are as a society facing fascism rising here in the US where I am, in Israel where I'm from, an even more complicated place, in a lot of places in the world right now, authoritarianism is on the rise, and a lot of us feel powerless and even hopeless. And so a holiday like that can feel maybe irrelevant for this time, for this moment, but maybe particularly because we're in this time and in this moment and this moment in her story, right? In history, in her story, in the story of the earth, in the story of our beingness. This might be a moment where we need the Shakti, the energy of life calling us. This may be the moment where we need to call it. This may be a moment where we need to look at what nature is doing and receive the attractive, seductive, luring energy in it, and ignite inside ourselves a seductive kind of quality where we call in what we want, and it may feel not possible with what is happening around us. And maybe it's not just what's going on in the world, but maybe in your life, in your personal life right now, calling in certain energies and qualities feels a little, how do I do that when life looks like this? It doesn't look like it's possible. So we can sit with that and we can let it simmer, and we can allow ourselves perhaps the honesty and the authenticity of the actual experience that we're having. And we get to breathe with that. Right? A deep, slow breath that may feel like a very necessary release. And we get to call in the capacity to move things on the scale that we can move them right now, which may not be a lot, but the Shakti is still there. So Beltane's big Shakti but we might not feel the possibility of it. So what we come to is where we actually are with the truth of it, which feels sometimes really like a big release, but also, then we have to kind of really admit the disappointment or the sadness or the grief of it, and be with it, and be with ourselves there. And in that space, call the energy of desire. In that space, ignite and awaken what we want. And what we want, and how do we put it in relationship with what's available for us, with what life is actually giving us, with where we actually are. And then slowly work on the things that we want to work on to create what we want to create. But Shakti is there. When we feel stuck, the energy of Shakti is going to show up as deterioration. Because when something isn't moving, when something is stagnant, it's going to start to break down. It's going to start to deteriorate, right? So Shakti is the energy of death. It's great for remembering Samhain in the southern hemisphere, right? The movement toward life has to include also the movement toward death. And the movement toward death creates the possibility of moving again to make more life. And if we embrace the complexity and embrace the paradox, then we can work with things and where we are in a way that is creative, in a way that is generative, in a way that takes us into our capacity, our Shakti, right? To make new ways, to make new forms, to make new possibilities with what is here, with what's available for us. And that can be very empowering, especially and particularly in moments where we feel powerless. And one of the stories about the ancient Beltane rites is that the young men would put on a stag antlers, and they turned themselves into a stag, and they would chase the young fertile goddesses into the forest. And so in that rite, in that ritual, we can think about it in all kinds of ways, but we can also think of it as a different time, and we can look at it as turning ourselves toward the theater of our own inner world. It's a courting, mating ritual. It's an invitation to become the animal. It's an invitation to become the animal that goes into the forest and with a sensuality of an animal, with a scent, look for the thing that we desire, and to turn ourselves to the very energy of desire, of seduction. And that might happen. One of a meditation teacher that I've studied with in my life, she's no longer alive, but her name is Sally Kempton, and there's something that I learned from her that I've taken with me all my life, is that she said that if you wanna call the energy of Lakshmi, and Lakshmi is the goddess from the Hindu tradition of beauty and abundance, the richness of life, the bounty. She has coins coming out of her hands, and she's always with water around her. She's the fecundity of life. She very much she's a good match actually for the Beltane energy. But Sally Kempton said that if you wanna invoke Lakshmi, you have to become Lakshmi. So she said you have to clean the house, you have to put flowers on, you have to dress in a way that makes you feel beautiful. And I love that, because it's making the journey into a deep relationship with a certain archetype and with certain qualities of life be initiated from the outside in, right? It's doing it on the outside in order to create the vibe on the inside. And something about that, I think, can be very helpful when we want to create things, because we often have to become the thing that we're creating before we've created it. We often have to put on I don't want to say put on a show, but kind of put on the jacket of confidence if we want to be confident enough to make something happen. And so with the luring, seduction, courting qualities of Beltane, that's something to sort of take into consideration maybe in our lives right now. Like, how do I bring that from the outside so that the inside can become the vessel that can receive it when it comes from the outside? Does that make sense? You put that on as an expression, but the expression becomes the inner vibe that then calls in the energy, the fluid nature of the qualities we want to generate, to pour in. And I'm going to teach you Deer Mudra. So again, we're weaving together. So one of the ritual in Beltane is to make a wreath made of flowers, and it's weaving together the wheel of the year, which is in the Celtic tradition, in the pagan tradition. Beltane is part of. It's part of the wheel of the year. The wheel of the year is all the seasons, and it keeps spinning. It keeps going. We keep moving from one to another. And so the flowers woven into the wheel of the year represent this moment in time that is the moment of blossoming. And so we can weave the wreath of the wheel of the year and of the power of this moment with energies that come from different parts of the world. And that can be a really beautiful thing, not to mishmash and mix disrespectfully, but to see the places where different traditions touch each other, to see the way the different places in the world have similar archetypes arise from the soil of that land. And so the deer in the Hindu tradition is very much representing play, sexual play. Deer sex, according to the Hindu tradition, is very sacred and very beautiful and very sweet, right? And so you have the deer in the Hindu tradition doing their thing in the forest, and it's a very sacred thing. And then you have the sacred rites of Beltane in ancient Europe and pre-Christian Europe doing their thing, right? And the antlers and the horns, that's just to take us to another place, is what then Christianity arrived and demonized. All the stuff that was sexual, the church arrived, the Christianity developed and demonized, right? And sent to exiled and suppressed, right? And so all of a sudden the horns and the antlers, if you think of the horned god, okay, now I'm going in many, many directions, but if you think of the antlers and the horns, that became later on the devil, right? Or you can think of Pan from the Greek or pre-Greek, actually, the pre-Hellenistic traditions. The energy of nature, Pan was the energy of nature itself, and it's lustful and it's full of desire, and in it there's problematics. In it there's issues of consent. In it there's a shadow. It's not just oh, it's great, the wildness of nature. The wildness of nature can be really fierce and can be really violent and can be really problematic from a human perspective, from maybe a progressive human perspective. We can look at it and think about it as problematic, but the energy of nature is the energy of nature. And we as humans want to go, we want to not send away the energy of nature. We want to include it. We want to integrate it. And we don't want, some of the conversation right now in progressive thinking is kind of very human hating, which I can see why I'm right there. But it's also, but then we have the ability to have some really important ways of viewing things to make things also more inclusive and more fair toward others. So the human creativity is beautiful and it's powerful. So how do we weave that in as well? Drinking my kombucha because I can feel my throat starting to go into that cough. Here it is. So I wanted to teach you Deer Mudra so that you can practice that today and in the days to come, and maybe all the way, maybe a little bit every day, whenever you want to, until summer solstice, kind of to honor this phase in the season. So Deer Mudra, Murgi Mudra in Sanskrit, Murgi is the deer, is like this. You bring the middle and the ring finger to touch the thumb, like that, the tip of the thumb. And then you turn them toward each other. Oh, hello. Two creatures facing each other, and they kiss. And then the pinky and the index touch. Okay, and even the back of the middle and ring touch. Okay, so that's Deer Mudra. And Beltane is a fire festival. You can allow your eyes to soften a little bit. Beltane is a fire festival, and the ashes of the fire are said to fertilize the earth and spread over the fields in the morning after. And it's the invitation to ignite passion in this fire, to ignite what we care about, to bring the flames of desire into a fertilizing process that creates something new, something more, in a sweet way, in a sacred way, like stag, deer, doe, sensuality and sexuality. And so the fire becomes the invitation to ignite ourselves and to offer ourselves and to make of the ashes of what we've offered, what has burned, something that fertilizes and nourishes what grows. And you can softly bring your hands into Anjali Mudra, softly, hands all the way together. Take a deep breath in. And chant with me the sound of Om. Om. Continue to chant and turn the hands into Murgi Mudra. And then bring the hands, release the hands, bring them to the heart. And there's a sound, it's also the name of the goddess, Swaha. And Swaha is the offering that we make, the oblations that we make into the fire. She's the wife of Agni, the wife of fire in Vedic cultures. That Vedic culture is like even before yoga fully arrived in India. And so we touch the heart, and then we say Swaha, and we bring the hands out into Vara Mudra, into the Mudra of boon giving, because we are the boon, we are the gift. And in the gift that we give, we're also receiving the boon, we're receiving the gift, because the Mudra is a vessel into which we receive the energy that we create. And then we bring it together so that the pinky and the thumb touch and the fingers are out. This is Lotus Mudra, the Mudra of a flower. We need a little flower action for this season. And then again, Om, the hands all the way together. Turn it to Murgi before you end the Om. And then touch the hands to the heart. Swaha. And then deep breath to bring it into lotus in front of the heart to Padma Mudra. And then begin your Om as you join the fingers together. Let the hands drop to your thighs with your palms facing down so that you release the ashes into your own soil, your own skin. And allow yourself to settle into this space for another moment. Breathing your desires, igniting the passion that is required in order to show up to life and bring movement into the places that feel stuck, and call in and call forth and receive and generate the visions that we have. Allow yourselves to be with the space that you're in, the authenticity of it. You don't have to make it something else. If it feels really grief-filled and worrisome and deeply disturbed right now, then that's where you're showing up with this life-giving energy of this moment. Call that into this space, not to fix things, not to make it something different, something else, but to nourish the very soul of you in this moment, in the space that you are in. And allow yourself to breathe your own beauty, your own sensual form from within, to wake it up so that it becomes the fragrance that calls the pollinators. It becomes the scent that draws towards it the capacity to make more of yourself. Breathe your beauty. Drink the nectar of your own power, your own authentic space right now. Breathe the breath of the truth of you with all of its complexity, and let that be the luring, the invitation, the softness that receives into it what is most needed. And then softly bring your hands together in front of your heart in Anjali Mudra to turn for another moment. All the ways that this conversation has touched you, and all that you already know about Beltane, and all the things that this awakens in you and disturbs in you even, and maybe stirs in you in discomfort or inspires you in wildness. Let it all in, and let it all sit in the space between your hands, becoming the offering of the depth of your heart, something that you show up to your life with. Thank you so much for showing up to this with me today. Let's do one bee's breath, and I promise to do a little tutorial on this, but we'll just weave that in. Become the bee, become the pollinator. We'll take a deep breath in, and without opening the mouth, hum the sound of a bee. We brought a lot in today, a lot of different parts, a lot of different flavors, a lot of different places in the world. So a lot of symbolism. And yet there's so much more. There's so much more to Beltane than what we just did. So hopefully it gives you a taste, it gives you a touch, it gives you something to maybe come back to as the days progress toward greater light, toward the summer solstice. And if you like this, I would so appreciate a little like on the video. And if you liked it, also please share it with your people. That would be so sweet and generous of you. And if you haven't yet subscribed to this channel, please subscribe to this channel so that you can get more of these wild explorations of culture and mythology and breath, and also lots of movement. Okay, subscribe to our channel, subscribe to my mailing list over on mamamandala.com. I will leave a link for you in the description of the video, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Thank you so much. All right, namaste. Thank you.